Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday. Hope everybody's having a good week. Happy pre-AEP, y'all. And I hope this week was incredibly productive for many of you. So I wanted to kind of pop in here just very quickly and quickly just, have a conversation with you guys about what I am seeing so far during this this early pre-AEP. Okay, so I think that one thing that's definitely been interesting is kind of seeing how a lot of agents are reacting to the 48-hour scope of appointment rule change for those that haven't been through that previously, right? I think many of you know that have been around the block, that have been around probably 4 years or more, that the 48-hour scope of appointment rule was a rule for quite some time previous to this. This isn't the first time that we've seen this rule. I think most of us know this at this point, but I also think that there's a lot of people that have gotten into the business in the last couple of years and maybe started off hot, maybe started off pretty strong, and they have not had to go through this as of yet. So this is a big adjustment, I think, for those people. I think that it's one of those things where we are, just kind of adjusting and rolling with the punches the best we can. For us, what we've been doing is for anybody that needs to change, let's say that they're an existing client and they need to change, or if they're a potential new client and they need to change, we're getting their scope done now, right? So we're getting all of those scopes done now, this week, next week, and then we're stockpiling pre-scheduled appointments, whether it be over the phone or whether they're coming into the office, over starting the week of the 15th. So the 15th actually lands on a Sunday. So starting the 16th on. And it's essentially, it gives AEP, pre-AEP, being the perfect opportunity and the perfect time to be able to kind of capture those scopes and just to kind of be able to kind of go through all that information, right? So it really isn't that big of a problem. It's really not that different than, in my opinion, what we were doing pre-AEP in years past. And, in years past during pre-AEP, you spend your time kind of having conversations with existing clients and, you spend your time having conversations with potential new clients, and you're really just like stockpiling them and getting them ready to go for the week of the 6th, the 15th, right? And beyond. So not a whole lot's changed there. You just have to get the scope, and that adds kind of the extra step. It has been rather shocking to me. And I don't know why it shocks me at this point. I've been around the block, right? This is my 10th or 11th AEP. I've lost track. I don't know. And I see this every single year. I don't really know why it surprises me at all. But it's amazing to me how many agents are, not newbies necessarily, but they're trying to add contracts now. They're trying to, order leads from scratch now from vendors. They're trying to put together their marketing campaigns now. And I couldn't be more honest with you and transparent when I say that this is the worst time of the year to do any of those things, quite frankly. We've seen, we probably have had 8, 9, 10 requests for new contracts this week, and it's one of those things where, guys, the carriers are not prioritizing new contracts right now. They're just not, right? They're not prioritizing new contracts. They are going to take twice as long. Most carriers are going to take twice as long, maybe even 3 times as long to kind of get contracts done right now, because the carriers are focused on AEP. And that's if it's a contract you've never had before, right? Of course, we're in blackout for anything else. And the amount of people that don't know that we're in blackout is crazy too. I think this stems from people with good intentions kind of, posting in groups and threads and forums and things like that, being like, don't worry about AEP, man. This is a year-round business, man. And it is. It's not to say that message is wrong necessarily, but you need to understand that AEP is also a very good opportunity. It's a very good time where you can grow your business. It's a good opportunity to, surely retain your business. Make sure that you're retaining your clients and your customers. And AEP is not the time that you want to get new contracts. AEP is not the time that you want to start like October 4th with a new lead program. I see Glenn Shelton in the comments here. I can only imagine how many calls he gets every day about people trying to start their marketing now. I mean, Glenn, if you're still watching, do you guys even have availability right now for new lead orders? Like, we should really have him jump on with me. I don't know if he can, because I'd love to kind of hear what's going on from his perspective on this. But I mean, I know, from talking to Glenn, Lead Heroes is a great example. They've had pre-orders going back a month ago, right? I don't even know if they can handle new orders right now. I mean, no, I could be wrong, but that's a realistic thing with a lot of vendors, with a lot of marketing organizations, things like that. And even if you're doing your own marketing, which I'm a big advocate of too, it's one of those things too where you're just starting now, and that's such a I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't quite understand it, you guys. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is just kind of what we're seeing kind of abroad. So I think we've seen, gotcha. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Glenn. He said that they have availability for AEP, but they cannot start October 15th, 16th anymore. That time is past, folks. Good to know. Another thing I think we're seeing kind of abroad as we're kind of looking at the changes is, as I've been predicting for a number of months now, really at this point, maybe even longer. I think there's videos going back a year that this would be coming, is the PDP disruption. Guys, it's real. The PDP disruption is a real thing. There are a lot of plans that raise their prices pretty significantly, right? 30%, 40%. Raising their PDP prices, and then some of the ones that went down, like this particular company that went down, and others, a lot of them are doing their 20, 25, 30, 35% tier 3 copays. So like, if you think about that, if there's a plan doing a 25, 30, 35% co-insurance for a tier 3, for tier 4, when people get into the donut hole, they're at 25%. So they're essentially in the donut hole right away on their brand names, right? And so you're seeing that a lot, with a lot of, different PDP companies kind of across the board. Haven't seen that as much with some Medicare Advantage plans, and I've seen it with some, and I haven't seen it as much with all the I haven't seen it with all the PDPs, but I've seen it with a lot of them, right? And so I think we kind of predicted that this would happen. I think we are seeing that, and I've said this before, and I don't mean it to say that this is every single market, right? It's not every single market that we're seeing this, but in a lot of markets, there's a lot more plan disruption. So of course, we have Lasso pulling out. I've seen regional carriers pull out in a lot of areas. I've seen a couple national carriers pull a plan or two out in a couple states. And then, just a lot of changes in terms of plan disruption. There's been reports that Medicare Advantage is going to be receiving less funding from the government in 2024. There's been articles talking about that, reports talking about that. From my perspective, I think in many places, not all. So if this isn't happening for you, I'm not talking about your market specifically, but we're seeing in a lot of markets that there's a bit of a domino effect of sorts with the funding being cut, right? So like I've seen a lot of places that have had their dental cut in half. I've seen their max out of pocket go up significantly. I've seen them take away give backs. I've seen a lot of these things in a lot of different markets going into next year. So I would be willing to say that in many places, there's more disruption and market shift happening right now, this open season, than we've probably seen in many, many years, at least for me. And it's our home market in Utah is certainly one of those. We're seeing a lot of disruption in Utah in terms of the Medicare Advantage space. Disruption breeds opportunity. So it's not to say it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that you need to be paying attention to. I think the prescription drug change is significant. Of course, now people going into the catastrophic coverage stage starting next year are going to have full coverage. Just in case anybody didn't notice that, I'm sure most of you did, but they're going to have full coverage opposed to paying a 5% or under coinsurance in years past. So that is something we knew that was coming, of course, but we've seen that people that normally were paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year out, it's causing their overall drug costs to be a little bit lower, and so that's kind of a good thing. But yeah, I think, but on the flip side, it's also seeing people that would spend an average of $500 or $600 or $700 a year in their prescription costs, maybe be over $1,000 or maybe over $1,500, due to the fact that maybe they take a couple tier 3s and they're in a 25% coinsurance or 20% coinsurance from day one, January 1st. And so it's definitely an interesting AEP. I don't think it's uneventful at all. I would even go as far as to say in many, many places, the last couple of AEPs in terms of changes, in terms of shifts, were a little bit relatively uneventful, just a little bit relatively uneventful. And so this year in particular, I think with the new compliance rules happening that have taken effect October 1st, 48-hour scope rule, can't get scopes at educational events anymore, these just kind of tightening of rules that we've been talking about for months now. I am not the compliance police. I'm just kind of pointing out these changes that are happening, but I am not, never will be the compliance police, ever, right? That's not my brand. I think if there's a person out there that's running an agency or, they label themselves an FMO and their claim to fame is that they're the compliance police, that's such a horrible, pathetic existence as far as I'm concerned. But what do we have when we have compliance tightening? We have more opportunity, right? Any type of, on the outside looking in, hardship in business of any kind breeds for opportunity from people that are, ready to make adjustments, push forward, continue to, kind of pursue growth, and they take advantage and they progress, they move forward while everybody else is kind of taking a step backwards, right? And it opens up more business for the people that are willing to just go for it because there's less people out there competing. I would argue that in times of less competition, in times of less compliance, when the rules were relatively loosey-goosey, probably the last, probably 2 years back, 3 years back. Not that there were ever not rules, but 2-3 years back when the rules were kind of just really loosey-goosey, and it was just kind of ended up being like a circus. It was probably harder to write business and harder to keep clients and harder to have retention because there was so many people swimming in the pool, right? It wasn't a blue ocean as much. It was more of a red ocean. But when people take a step back and they transition into other lines of insurance because they're like, okay, Medicare is getting harder to do. I'm going to go do ACA full-time. I'm going to go do life full-time. I'm going to go do financial planning full-time. That means there's less people swimming in the waters, and it makes it more of a blue ocean rather than a red ocean, right? This is kind of what I've been thinking about all year in preparation of AEP. I've been thinking about how I believe this AEP could potentially be a huge, huge one in terms of the opportunity because of the people that are more or less spectators that write a couple apps here or there, or maybe they're doing well, but they're just kind of, hoppers. They hop to the next thing. They hop to the next thing, hop to the next thing. It opens up more business for the people that are here to stay, right? And the people that take this extremely seriously, like like many of you do. I certainly do. My company does. And so I think that's relatively safe to be said. We did a 2-day senior expo in Sandy, which is essentially, for those of you who don't know, about 15, 20 minutes away from Salt Lake City. That's where our office is. And we did this expo last year in Sandy. Last year we did the expo, and we probably got like 4 or 5 permission to contacts. We didn't do great with it. It was a little underwhelming. Now, this was the first year that the expo opened up since COVID. So like they'd closed it for a couple years. So I think there were still some people that were hesitant. Maybe people didn't know it was open back up. Like, it was good, but it wasn't as good as we were expecting. It wasn't as good as pre-COVID for sure. This year, I felt like there were less agents there, less like brokerages there. Now, granted, I wasn't sitting at the booth. It was really for Stormy. So Stormy was at the booth, and I popped in and out a couple times here or there. Just kind of check on things. I sat at the booth for like an hour yesterday, something like that. And we got, instead of 4 or 5 that we got last year from this same expo, we got over 20. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think there's more people going out to these kind of things. And I also think there were less agents there. I think there were less agents there because I think there's people that are pretenders. And I think there's people that, hop when the going gets tough. So they hop over to ACA. They're out of the business. They're not out of the business, but they're chasing the next shiny object, right? So it's a perfect example. We have tons of seminars scheduled throughout the rest of the month. We have all kinds of lead flow coming in, all kinds of advertisements and marketing going. And we have another expo in about 2 weeks. And I'm expecting us to just absolutely crush it. I feel like, and there have been a lot of folks that have reached out to us wanting to contract with us. I'm very flattered, and I really appreciate that you want to work with us. We'd love to work with you too. Right now, we're just in blackout. So we're not taking on any contracting. Our office is just kind of overwhelmed and kind of taking care of the agents we have now, helping them. But in addition to that, we're just really busy right now. I'm going to see if we can open back up to take new contracts, hopefully in November. So keep an eye out for that. We'll try to announce that if that ends up being the case. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm seeing early on. First week of pre-AEP. Some of you are just absolutely working your butts off. I've been there. I've done that. I'm at the office every day. I'm working. I'm doing the things I need to do, but I'm probably working less than I've ever worked during AEP. And that's because I did my time. I posted something in Joanna's group a couple of days ago because I thought it was important. Because sometimes it's one of those things where, like, when you have gone through 2 or 3 AEPs of busting your ass and you are going through another one and you're like, what is this all for? What is the point in this? Why am I going through this? What is this all for? If you're building your business the right way, if you're building your business to scale, if you're building your business to, be more about we than me, meaning team building, infrastructure, systems, processes, growth, marketing, expansion, everything, then over time, there's less and less of things you have to do yourself, right? And so I've gone through many, many, many AEPs where I was either a one-man show or I had one person working for me. And I had one staff member, one person on my team, and I was just absolutely just working my ass off. And now I'm not working as hard as I used to. I'm still working. I'm still here every day, but like I'm going home and being with my family at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 maybe the latest. And I can do that, right? Like whenever I see somebody that's absolutely bogged down, I think there's one of 2 things happening during AEP. One, they are newer and they're going through it, right? Like they're paying their dues. My early years of AEP, I look at it as me paying my dues to get the business built. But then from there, once I've gone through paying those dues, it's up to me to continue to push forward and build it and have the courage to lay the groundwork of building infrastructure. That's what you need to do in order to build a real business. It takes courage to build infrastructure. It's not for the faint of heart, because when you go through that, you kind of don't want to spend the money. You're like, I just worked really, really hard for this. It takes a lot of courage to be like, okay, no, I'm going to part with everything I just made so I can, build a machine, build a machine and build a really, really, really successful business. And so there's either that, they're either newer, they're in their first couple years and they're paying their dues, right? They're paying their dues. I paid my dues. I worked. There's a picture that popped up, but you know how Facebook does that, memories from so many years ago on this day. One popped up on my Facebook the other day of me holding my daughter, 2019, when she was born. She was a newborn, basically. Well, I think she was like 5 months old at this time. And I'm holding her, and I'm in a tank top, and I look just like dead. I should post this picture in the Facebook group. Let me know if you guys want to see me post this picture in the Facebook group. I'll see if I can find it. But on the caption, it said, finished up working 100-hour week. And I remembered that moment. And I did. That was my last AEP, I think, where I was doing 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. I was absolutely just, but when I see people that are doing that, and they've been doing it a long time, they've been in the business 10 years, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. What I think is that they haven't proved that they have taken the courage to build out the infrastructure to where the business is more about the team and it's more about the overall bandwidth of the organization than just their own personal physical efforts. They haven't taken the next step to build out a business, a real business. Because if they were, like when I see people posting, they're like, I'm bogged down in drug comparisons. I'm bogged down in PDP changes. I'm bogged down in this. I'm bogged down in that. The first thing I think about is like, why are you doing that? Why don't you have somebody to help you with that? Right? Like, if you're so far along and you're so successful, why don't you have somebody helping you with that? And the fact of the matter is, it's not that they're not, the people that are in that situation are not successful. I think it has more to do with that they haven't really gone for it. They haven't really put, their foot forward in building the proper infrastructure, right? The people that run the biggest businesses in this industry, I assure you, are not doing drug comparisons or PDP changes. They're not. They are not. The biggest, for example, right? Like the biggest FMOs, some of their slowest seasons is during AEP. Their busy season is like the summer when they're in preparation for AEP, getting people contracted, things like that. But the people that run the biggest agencies, call centers, things like that, they're not doing, 60 drug comparisons on a Tuesday and working late into the night and helping people switch PDPs. They're not, because the team takes things off their plate. The team takes things off their plate so they can focus on things that are going to allow them to grow. Things that are going to be a higher use and a higher value for the business than retaining a PDP member. Doesn't mean it's not important. Doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done, but there should be someone else in their business to do that, right? And so this is something I think about, when I kind of see this. If you are in the early stages and you are paying your dues and you are building your business, man, I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's hard work. I know people online will be like, don't work so hard. Go spend time with your family. For me, I did not spend as much time as I could have with my family for years. But you know what that allowed me to do is I can spend more time with my family now than almost anybody. Right? So like, I sacrificed. I paid my dues. Now, doesn't mean sacrifice has to happen in that level of sacrifice forever, but I paid my dues, right? Like AEP has been times where I've been able to grow my business significantly, many, many years, for many, many, many years. And It doesn't mean that you can't grow outside of AEP. One thing has absolutely nothing to do with the other, frankly. You can grow your business outside of AEP and still prioritize dominating during AEP. You can do both. Why does it have to be one or the other? This is a year-round business. You should be working year-round. Working year-round actually helps you have a better AEP because you run into prospects and people that you can't help, or maybe they're in the best plan, but you get their permission to get back in touch with them. You build a pipeline during AEP, right? Like an AEP pipeline should be built going into a 10-1 because you're working all year round, right? And you're writing business at the same time. You're doing T65 business. You're doing all that stuff. But it's just kind of interesting. My advice to you guys this AEP would be, depending on where you are, depending on kind of where you're at in your business, it is not a bad thing to work your ass off. It is not a bad thing to work your ass off during AEP because there's more opportunity than any other time of the year. I worked my ass off for years during AEP, and that's why I'm where I'm at and you're not. If you're watching this and it's not just that. I was working all year round. It's that I prioritized the off season. It's because I worked really, really hard for a lot of years. Like, let's not downplay the work. Let's not downplay the hard work. But I think if you want to really grow and you really want to have a very large, successful, influential business that can really grow and it can become a machine, you got to do the work sometimes, guys. If yes, and I know there's always that one person that's like, oh, you got to work smarter, not harder. Well, yes, obviously. But if you're new, if you're working, if you're in the trenches, it's a very, very good opportunity to grow. It's a very, very good opportunity to grow. And this AEP in particular, as I was saying earlier, I think it's, one of those things that there's a lot of people retracting because of compliance rules. They're jumping over to ACA. They're jumping over to this, jumping over to that. And they're not focusing as much on Medicare, which means there's more opportunity for you. If there's less people playing in the sandbox, there's less competition. And I believe, as I've mentioned, there are a lot of markets. So if this is happening in your market where there's a lot of plan disruption, there's a lot of plan changes happening, that also breeds for opportunity. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to pop on, for 20, 25, 30 minutes here and just kind of share with you guys my thoughts on kind of what I'm seeing pre-AEP. I hope you guys had a great first week. If you are working really hard and you are a one-man show and you are in the trenches and you're trying to build that foundation of sorts for your business, it's a marathon, not a race. Rest up this weekend. Give yourself some time to relax. And I've been through, as I mentioned, I've been through many AEPs. This is AEP 10 or 11 for me. And I've done it as an individual agent, all alone, one-man band. I've done it with, one or two employees. I've done it with a good sized team, and now a very well-oiled machine organization that continues to just get better and better. So, guys. Monica said, "What time for a football break?" Agreed. I'm going to be watching some football this weekend. I am ready for it. All right, guys. Hope this message finds you doing well, and I hope you got something out of it. We will talk with you guys later. Comment if you end up watching the replay. Comment hashtag Team Replay, and let me know what your thoughts are on this stream. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me on kind of what we talked about here, and what are you seeing first week of pre-AEP? Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.